let's cover the second example of future values. So we have what will be the balance in an account at the end of 10 years if 5,000 is deposited today and the account earns 4% interest compounded quarterly. So this question is a little bit tricky, so you need to keep in mind the additional information that we have here. So it's asking what will be the balance in an account at the end of 10 years if 5,000 is deposited today and the account earns 4% interest compounded quarterly. So let's do that. The first step that you want to do, just like the one that we covered before, is to identify the main points. So the main points here is you identify those main points with regard to the items in the formula that we have. So identify the main points. The PV here is the present value, or an amount that you have today is $5,000. And then R is 4%. That is the interest rate, because it's saying account earns 4% interest, but this is an annual interest rate. So I'll show you how we're going to modify it to incorporate the quarterly compounding. But for now, let's just assume R is 4%. And then T is 10 years. That is the duration of the investment. However, it's quarterly compounded. That means that payments are made, or the interest are paid every 3 months. And therefore, we need to modify two main things here. So if you see a question that states that something or an interest rate is compounded quarterly or monthly or semi-annually, we need to modify two main things. Like in this question, we need to modify, the first thing that we're going to modify is R, which is the interest rate. The second thing would be T, or the duration of the investment. So in this question, it says that it's compounded quarterly. So that means that the payments are made every 3 months, and in 1 year we have 3 months, because 1 year is 12 months and a quarter is 3 months. So I hope you're getting the difference. And so that means that we have 4 quarters in a year, because we have 3 months in a year. So we have 4 quarters. So to find the interest rate for each quarter, we will divide the R, which is the first item that we identified that we will be modifying, by 4, because we have 4 quarters. So we'll be having like 4 payment periods in 1 year. So R divided by 4, that would be 0.04, or 4%, divided by 4, that would be 0.01, or 1%. So 1% is the interest rate per quarter. And for T, the second item that we're modifying here, you ask yourself, if we have 4 quarters in a year, how many quarters do we have in 10 years? So in this case, we have a total duration of 10 years, but we need to find how many 3 months will we have in those 10 years, assuming that in 1 year we have 3 months. So we have 4 quarters in 1 year. How many quarters will we have in 10 years? So that's why we multiply 10 by 4 to get 40. So T will be 40. And we are using the future value formula because you'll have a clue from the question, because it's saying that account at the end of 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, or 10 years from today, is a time in the future. So that gives you a clue that we'll be using the future value formula. All right, so because it's at the end of 10 years, so that's why we're using the future value formula. And the second step is to calculate. So let's find that future value, what we are looking for, or what the question is asking, is equals to the present value PV, or the amount of money that you have right now, into 1 plus R. R is the interest rate raised to power T, the duration. So FV, that's what the question is asking, is equals to PV. Our present value right here, we identified that to be 5,000. So it's 5,000 into 1. 1 is a constant, it doesn't change, so it keeps on being 1. So 1 plus the rate is 0.01. So something that you should keep in mind here is we are not using the 4% interest rate, because that is the annual rate. However, because we say that down here, we say that we're going to modify R, which is the interest rate, to a quarterly rate. So we'll be using 0.01 instead of 0.04, because 0.01 is the rate per quarter. All right. And let's go back here. Yeah. So 1 plus 0.01 and then raised to power t, because t we're not going to be using 10 because we already modified t by multiplying 10 times 4 to get 40. So we'll be using 40 instead. So after you plug in all the numbers, 5,000 you multiply by 1 plus 1.48886. So 1.48886, excuse me, is from, first of all, starting with the parentheses, so 1 plus 0.01, and then you raise to power 40. So that one yields 1.48886. And then the last thing that you want to do, the way we did like the first example, is to multiply by the present value or the amount of money that you have today, which is 5,000. And the result would be 7,444.3187. So this is the amount of money that you will have at the end of 10 years if you invest it at 4% compounded annually. So it's the same interpretation here. If you have 5,000 deposited today, it will be worth 7,444.32 in 10 years at 4% compounded quarterly. So I hope everything is clear so far and we are moving on really well. All right, so let me know if you have any questions concerning any of these. I will be having live sessions if you request one so that we can discuss any concerns that you have. So let me know so we can talk about. What will be the balance in an account at the end of 10 years if $5,000 is deposited today and the account earns 4% interest compounded quarterly? So we are asked to find the future value here. And what we have is n, yeah. So n is 10 years, but because it's compounded quarterly, it means that we have 10 times 4. But we have to put an equal sign before to see like how many, to find how many quarterly payments we have in 10 years. So we have 40 quarterly payments because in 1 year we have 4 quarters. All right, so n is equals to 40. 5,000 is the money that is deposited today. So because it says that 5,000 is deposited today, so that gives you an idea that that is the PV. So PV is negative. So make sure that you put a negative sign before the present value. Otherwise, you'll find like an error. So 5,000 is the negative 5,000 is the PV. We will need the interest. So this account earns 4% interest compounded quarterly. So interest is the rate, but 4% is the annual rate. So what we'll be doing here to find the quarterly rate, which is the periodic rate, so we will do 4% divided by 4. So it's basically 1%. So I'll convert that decimal into a percentage and then it should be 1%. Yep. And PMT is 0 basically because it's not an annuity here. Face value is what this question is asking us to find, because it's asking to find for us to find the balance in an account at the end of the 10 years. So end of the 10 years is a time in the future. So the future value FV we'll still be using the future value function FV. Select that and then rate is 1%. N is 40. PMT is 0 because this is not an annuity. We don't have like a recurring payment. PV is negative 5,000. Type is 0 because we're assuming that the interest payments are made at the end of the year. So just type in 0. There we go. Then you get the answer to be 7,444.32. And that would be the answer for this example. So if you check like the way we did it using the formulas, then you'll get the same answer. So this is how you do it on Excel. Yeah, there you go.